And I see with everybody pretty much locked in their homes, everybody's hair is growing nicely. I know my hair, the length of my hair in New Jersey, since everything is closed, is getting more and more problematic. We've got people pinging in, so we'll give it just another second. If you do have we're going to go through the presentation. If you have any questions, there is a chat box. Feel free to put anything in the chat box that you'd like. Today we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into some of our presentation topics from last week, and one of them I'll briefly touch on the SBA, but and what's going on there. But we're going to jump right into some particular strategies. So, okay. All right, let's get things rolling again. And, all right, sharing screen. All right, everyone. So Carl Gould here. Thanks again, once again, for joining in on the call. We're recording. We have a number of people coming on, so you might hear some pings in the background as I hear people dialing into the line. Last week, we talked a little bit about where are we at now with the COVID crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, and specifically, what do you need to do as a business right now? Week by week, things are changing with rapid succession, and we are heading into right now what is the peak, if you will, the peak of the crisis in the United States. So my hope for you all is that your families are safe, your families are healthy. You are practicing, hang on everyone. You're practicing, you have safe practices, and you make it through this time. It is a stressful time, I understand, from what we understand from the projections that have been out there, that it's going to be a rough couple weeks, listening to a lot of news around new cases, deaths, that sort of thing. So I do understand, the challenges and stresses that come with a time like this. Okay. So, but today we're going to focus specifically on a theme about going macro first and then micro second. In other words, so if you have a question, you want to share a best practice or a comment, put it in the chat box, mute your line, and I've got you in mute only mode right now, and we'll go through this, and I'll take on as many questions and experience shares as we can as we go. So we are in the month of April. It's April Fool's Day. No April Fools on this. This is our life right now. This is what we're dealing with. It can be among the worst of times, but as we're seeing every day, it is bringing out the best in a lot of people. So in the month of April, here's what we can expect. There's two dynamics that are going to happen. One is there going to be a spike in cases, and two, there's going to be what they call flattening of the curve, which means in times like this, when there is this type of challenge, there hits a peak. And that's what the spike is. We're going to hit a peak over these next couple weeks. And then flattening the curve just means we should start to see a decrease in cases, in deaths, and that sort of thing. And that is what we all hope for, and we hope it doesn't get too bad. But let's talk about a couple things very, very specifically as it relates to our businesses. So number one, the United States, the government passed the stimulus package. The SBA, the $2 trillion stimulus package They're talking about adding to that stimulus package. But for right now, one thing you can know is that the SBA disaster loan package has come through. Of all the times we have said to ourselves that the government doesn't understand small business, they do seem to have gotten this right, and they do seem to have truly understood what the needs of small business will be during this time. And so we want to take full advantage of this. Now, many of you have been asking a lot of questions about the SBA loan package. What I can suggest that you do, the way it's flushing out, there are two basic loan packages, the PPP and the EIDL. Okay, the EIDL is the economic disruption and economic disaster loan. You can apply for that right on the SBA.gov website. Okay, the PPP, which is the payroll assistance, you would want to do that through your banker. Call an SBA authorized lender. Just call your banker. That's the place to start with. Okay, and find out if they are an authorized lender. And essentially, guys, it's free money. Okay, it's just about that. There are parameters for how you will calculate how much you will qualify for, and assuming anything that you use in an 8-week period that you use on payroll will be forgivable. Anything you don't use, it's not forgivable. It's a loan, not a grant, and you'll have to pay it back. But you're likely to read of loan rates of 0.5% to 4%. Okay, and when you hear those rates, just understand this is a loan at a terrific rate. And what we know for this coming year is that we are dealing with this virus, and we have a good handle on what the problem is right now. What we don't know, although it's being predicted, is that there might be a surge again in the fall, or maybe next spring when there is a flu, the flu season comes back again. This thing isn't going away, and it's not a one-time problem. It's the sort of thing that at some point, likely everyone's got to be exposed to it, builds the immunity, or gets their vaccine or their test. And then once we as a society have had the chance to deal with it in our own way, life will go back to what we would have called before normal. Okay? And so this is going to be around for a while, but will it be a pandemic and will it be a crisis for a while? That's the part that's not likely to happen. Parts of the country, the USA is going to flatten out in most markets this month, possibly next month. And then throughout the course of the year, this will definitely be a story. It'll definitely be parts of our community. However, at that point, the business community will have gone back to work for the most part, almost en masse, and we will be operating our businesses. Now, remember what we said last week. Your job right now is get through April. Okay? You don't know what May is. You don't know what June is. But we're going to operate our businesses as they are a going concern today. We're going to do everything we can to satisfy our clientele. But you want to operate your business as if the world is back to work May 1st. And when I say the world, don't take me literally every single corner and every single niche, because there will be restrictions on certain places, certain industries, certain business types in the month of May. That is likely to happen. But you want to operate your business as if we are back to work in May. And so what I wanted to do today was I wanted to make sure we took a deep dive into a couple of immediate actions. This is your April action plan, okay? So this is the month that we educate our clientele and our prospects. Okay, so here's our action plan. It's going to be two things. We're going to dive deep into these two items. Okay, so number one, we want to educate in April. Number two is we're going to build our 12-month cash forecast. But let's talk about educating in April. All right, we want to be visible and providing instruction, education tutorials to our clients. I'm going to come back to that in more depth, but this is the time where you are preparing for what will be the new normal. It's starting to happen already. When the world goes back to work, people are going to be very anxious to go back to the office, get out, get some fresh air, go to the movies, go to a restaurant. I know I'm sure dying to do it, okay? I want to get back out there, all right? And I know many of you do too, but there will be a new normal, and the new normal in business, the new normal in education is going to be virtual, and it's going to be remote. So let's get ready for that. You can prepare for that by starting to educate your clientele in April. And then we're going to talk expense reduction in a moment. We're going to talk about how you manage your finances. But I forbid you, I absolutely forbid you to do your 30, 60, 90-day cash flow forecast until you have first done your 12-month forecast, okay? Guys, ladies, gentlemen, you cannot understand the next 90 days and make your best decisions if you don't understand what the next 12 months is going to look like. And when I say 12 months, I don't mean to the end of this year. That's not a big enough sample. We've got to go around the corner to March 31st, 2021. And here's the trick. I'm going to come back to the specific technique we want to use, but in our 12-month forecast, we want to look at what will the cash in bank be? What are we likely to collect? How much of it are we likely to collect? And when you're doing this, I want you to go line by line. There is a big difference between saying, we're going to do 80%, and saying, wait a minute, this client, this project, this event, I think we're likely to capture 85% of it. I think this much will be deferred, that much will be discounted. And to build that, each way that you get paid gets built out accordingly. Secondly, look at your accounts receivable. Okay? And when we talk accounts receivable for our conversation today, these are the accounts receivable that you are likely to collect. I'm not suggesting you just throw something up there and throw it up there with no possibility that you're going to collect it. I'm talking about what's the accounts receivable you are likely to collect over the next 12 months. High probability of collecting. Okay? Again, this is very important. Now, in the forecast, we're going to talk about inventory control. This is a normal process, but let's not get into inventory control or inventory levels right now. Let's go to number 4. Then plot out what is your deferred revenue, meaning what is your monthly recurring revenue going to look like, and in what month are you likely to collect it? Because you might have MRR, monthly recurring revenue, in April and May. You might not collect, but you might defer it, provide forbearance, give grace periods, and you might collect it in other months. And then look at your ARR. Are there any annual contracts that renew at any one point where they're not only renew, but they're paid? Okay? Where are those dollars likely to land? Once you know that, you could then look at the next 12 months, and I want you to look at it in totality and say, wait a minute, we were expecting to do 1, 2, 10, 20, 40 million in the next 12 months. And wow, you know what? We're actually going to be close to that. Or we're actually still going to have a growth year. Maybe not as good as we expected, but we are still expecting that. Very important that you look at that, because now we're going to come back and do your 30, 60, 90, and you're going to have to make client-by-client decisions. Now, you would make different client-by-client decisions if you thought your business was going to end, the world was going to crumble, and you were going to lose most of your clientele over the next 6 months. I mean, if you thought, for example, if you thought you were going to lose a client in 6 months, like they're not going to survive, they're dead, they're going, well, you would demand whatever payment you could get now and then just cut your losses later. However, if you think they are going to remain a client or come back to you when they can get back in business, and they are likely to be the same or similar client later, well, you're going to make different decisions right now in your 30, 60, 90 plan, both from a cash flow forecast and your relationship with them. Now, of the calls that I've had and the things that I've noticed recently, the tone of the conversation changes when you can see your 12 months. All of a sudden, and most people have said, it's not as bad as I thought. It's not that bad. Now, all of you on this call I know personally on some level, all right? And I know some of you are more detailed when it comes to your finances, like you dig in and you get into every line item and you want to see how we got to this and what's the accumulation of that which created that master account, more detailed. And some of you are more top of the trees. Like, all right, tell me how many clients, tell me how many transactions, what's the average transaction, got it, what am I fixed, what's my COGS, what are my cost of goods, good, I'm good. Either way, folks, make sure that however you process the numbers, you are aware of what the next 12 months is going to look like, because you can make your best decisions from there. You're now thinking straight, all right? You know, I learned a long time, one of the first things they taught us in coaching is that if you ever get stressed out about your business, about your life, about something you're doing, then you're thinking too small and you've lost track of the big picture. It doesn't mean it's not worth getting upset over or nervous over, but if you feel you're so in the weeds that all you see is the problem everywhere you look, then you probably lost sight of the bigger picture, even if it's temporary. So let's make sure we've got the big picture, the next 12-month forecast, and then absolutely we're going to dive into 30, 60, 90. Both are important, but let's make sure we know both, okay? All right, cool. Now, I mentioned this last week. I'll just make another comment on it. You're looking for immediate cash. Refinance any of your assets. Any option you have. There are some companies that are already offering grace periods, deferments. If they're offering, take it. If your mortgage on your building is saying, hey, you don't need to make your payments for 3 months and we could tack it on the end, there'll be no extra interest, take it. You know, some lenders are offering 3 to 6 months. Take it. Even though you might not need it, just take it. All right? We don't know what next year is going to look like. If you take it right now and you have the money, set it aside in an account, and if you get to the end of the year and you said, I never really should have taken those 3 months grace anyway, great, then make the payment. All right? But now we're talking immediate action plan, right? Immediate action plan is let's protect whatever capital we can. All right? So refinance anything you can, because if at the way the Fed cut the rates, you could save a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 per month. That's immediate cash flow, immediate. Okay? I talked to you earlier about having a cost segregation and accelerated depreciation study done on your business. Have that done on your real estate, on your equipment, on your machinery. Okay? All right, find out what tax breaks you can take advantage of right now, okay? So think about it, and pass this along to your clients. If they have real estate, equipment, machinery, or they own, they do research and development, those are the 4 easy ones. They can do a study and likely take accelerated depreciation and losses now. That will be like an immediate tax break. It's an immediate injection in cash into your accounts. All right? You guys are all worried about cash? Here's your path to cash. Okay? All right. Now, let's make a couple of immediate moves on our expense reduction. I went through this slide very quickly last week, but what I want to do this week is we're going to talk about how you do each one. Last week was an overview. This week is a more deep dive. So if you're going to make some immediate moves in expense reduction, we need to go in this sequence. okay? First we want to do is we want to look at our gross margin analysis. Let's look at your cost of sale, okay? Your COS, cost of sale, all right? That is one of your top gross margin. In your gross margin, cost of sale is one of your highest costly items. Now, so some of you might not be using our full waterfall cash flow management system right now, and the way that we like to look at it is we take all of the sales cost, all of your cost of sale, including the labor, your marketing, and we put it above the line and we put it in the gross margin calculation. All right? It is sales is a variable cost. What do you mean by that? Well, if you are trying to get more if you're not trying to get any more customers, right? If you're saying, hey, you know what, I'm right where I need to be, then you don't even need a website. And you certainly don't need salespeople. And you don't need to be marketing. The only reason why you would have salespeople, a marketing program, doing PR, or even having a customer-facing website is to, at some point, generate a lead or acquire a client. That's why you do it. So that goes in your gross margin calculation. Move everything what they call above the line. All of your management salaries are going to stay in fixed overheads, but everything else is going, but the cost of sale is going above the line. That goes into your gross margin calculation, okay? And we like to see as much get into variable costs as possible. Why? Because if something like this crisis happens and you need to contract your business, meaning get small quick, the more variable, the quicker you can contract. You want to grow your business, you want to expand and meet the demand, great, that's awesome. But you've got to contract during, off-peak seasonality, crisis time, okay, or major slowdowns or legislation changes in your business. So we want to see as much in your gross margin, your variable cost as possible. Here's where we need to be nimble. And it's times like this that remind us to do that, okay? So in your cost of sale, in your gross margin analysis, cost of sale is going to be one of your highest costs. All right? You were thinking, cost of sale, Carl, what are you talking about? Now that you're putting all of your sales costs, your sales salary costs up in cost of sale, it got expensive in a hurry, didn't it? Yeah, you weren't thinking that before. It's going to be one of your highest costs. So let's look at your highest qualified leads and prospects first. Go to your pipeline. Who is your highest qualified leads? And let's go after them first. Next, number 2, look at your existing clientele. And if you were to, best customers, not just because they pay you the most or whatever, but best customers because they're loyal, they're appreciative, they value what you do, they're profitable. These are the kind of people you want to keep, right? Let's call them your A-level customers. B is, they're good, they're not great, right? C customers, wish I could jettison them tomorrow, okay? All right. Now go to your A's first. Find out if there's any other projects that are coming up, any other needs they're going to have later in the year. Go to in your cost of sale. We want to go for our highest leverage, highest margin, and quickest close possible. So go to your highest rated prospects for new sales from new sources. Then go to your clientele. Are there any new sales from existing sources, right? But we want to go there first because if we're looking to streamline expenses, that's where we go. Second, let's look at our materials. So for those of you, I put lean into your processes. So in other words, you want to do an efficiency exercise on all the materials and processes that you're using to build out your product or service. Now is the time to look at your process maps. That's right, if you haven't looked at them in a while, dust them off, put them on the wall, and let's look at every step in your sales process and then every step in your fulfillment process, also called throughput. Look at your throughput. Let's look at every step. Now is the time where you look for any operational efficiencies that you can. Why now? Well, we've had this conversation before. We've said to you, your advisors or coaches or your strategists have said to you, hey, let's take this on now. Let's look into this process. You have said, oh, my God, Carl, I don't have any time. I am swamped right now. How do you expect me to take care of this now when we are so busy? If we only had a break in the action, if we only had a little bit of time, I don't know, like I got locked in my house, then I could look at those things. Well, guess what? We're here now. We're here now. And I'll get to it in a later slide, but let's take advantage of this time for what it is. If you are a struggling business, the stimulus package is a lifeline and will carry you through the next 4 to 6 months at least, because they're basically going to pay you to keep your employees. They're going to pay you to do it. All right? You can furlough, you can lay people off, but the government's going to pay you to keep them. So what do you think is better? Getting rid of your employees only to bring them back later, or keeping them and staying close to them and training them and having them ready for later? I think training and having them ready for later might be the smarter move right now. I understand there's some extenuating circumstances with some of you. We can dive into that individually. Remember, I'm setting the agenda for the conversations we're going to have. All right, now number 3 in your gross margin analysis, direct labor. Direct labor is anyone right now building the product, delivering the service, pulling the tooth, trying the case, all right? Anyone who is doing your core operations. And you want to eliminate anyone, and I don't mean eliminate like get rid of the person, but in the fulfillment of that product or service, let's look to eliminate any aspect or person or repurpose that person that you can't attach an ROI to right now. All right? So if you're a construction company and you have a crew going out there and you have somebody who drives the truck, but they're not producing as much on the site, let someone else drive the truck. Let's repurpose that person into another area or aspect of the business. All right? If somebody is providing a more of a luxury or nice to have role in the fulfillment of something, then let's see if we can eliminate that, automate that. Okay? Is there a process we can streamline there? Now is the time to look at these sorts of things. Because if you could be successful during this time, when it picks back up, it'll be a time when you can tighten up and really improve on your processes. Now, this is something that we didn't talk about yet. Now let's take your non-core expenses, meaning your overheads. What is it you do now that is an expense item that you can flip into a revenue item? What item that you do right now that you can flip from non-core to core? I'll give you a couple of examples, and then these might be some things we can even talk about on our calls. So is there an aspect of what you do in your business that is very easy, you do it well, that you could do for others? So, for example, I just introduced two of our clients. They're both in the promotions business, because one of our promotions clients says, I can't get these bags. And I'm pretty sure our other promotional client can get those bags. So at least on one side, at least for now, I mean, both parties win because I can get the bags to sell to my customer. But the other client, what was once an expense, I don't mean the inventory because that's customer bought, but the time we have to spend internally to go source those bags, I now have another resource that helps pay for that. So both parties win. I get the bags I need. I now get some relief from the expense that I have sourcing these. I flipped a non-core expense into a core expense. See how that worked? We have one client that receives a lot of boxes, right? And I knew this was a time to flip a non-core into a core, meaning an expense line item into a revenue item, when I called to try to speak to this guy, and they said he's out in the back in the dumpster crushing down the boxes. I said, "You're what?" Get him on the phone. "What were you doing?" "Oh my God, we got a big shipment in. We had a lot of extra boxes. I had to really crush down the dumpster because they come pick up the recycling in a couple of days." I said, "How can we get paid for that?" "What are you talking about? How can we get paid for that?" I said, "Isn't there anybody out there that could use these boxes? Like, do they get destroyed when they come in?" "Well, you know, they're not in bad shape." I said, "Well, if we were really careful opening them up, what kind of shape would they be in?" And he said, they would be in reusable shape. They would be in reusable shape. Okay? And so I said, "Well, what can we do about that?" He made some phone calls, ended up buying a, what the hell are they called? It's it's like a rack, but it racks and compresses the boxes, and then he can strap them up. He now repurposes and sells the boxes out. Now, he doesn't make a lot of money on it, but he no longer has the expense of the recycling, which was about $1,000 or so a month. That's gone, and he makes a little bit of money on it, which covers the labor and will pay back the machine that he uses, the carting machine he uses to pack the boxes. What other expenses do you have that you can do for others for hire? Many of you on this call, I'll give you one more to look at. Many of you on this call are good at marketing your businesses. Are there anyone else you can provide that service for? We have some of our clients in the past have liked the fact of how we do our social media. So they've had us do it for a couple of months to train them on how to do it. Right? We're not a social media agency, but we helped a few people get up to speed. They covered our costs for that time. That took a non-core expense and made it a core revenue for a period of time. Okay? So let's go through our non-core expense analysis, and let's go line item by line item. If we don't need it, if it's a luxury, let's set it aside, pause it for now, but let's also ask the question on every line item, is there a way we can get paid for this? Is there a way we can get paid for this? Okay, I put two other clients together. One is a sales organization, one's a manufacturer, mattress manufacturer. Okay, the sales company has sales channels. They need sourcing. Okay, the mattress manufacturer, they have an expense. They've got a sales expense. By using them as reps, at least for this channel, that turns a non-core expense or gross margin into it eliminates that expense. So where can we start to eliminate or reduce some of these non-core or even, expenses? Okay? Now, in our expense reduction exercise, let's look at management labor last. We're going to repurpose them because we're going to start to utilize them in our marketing and in our selling. Okay, so here we go. So we talked a little bit about that last slide last time, but I wanted to put some language around our discussion from last week. Last week I just said we want a preparedness plan, priority list, and pre-orders. Okay, but what we want to do here is I want to give you some of the scripting that you would talk your clients through and your prospects through. This has been working very, very well. Even if you've had to give a deferment, we've had to do some forbearance, this scripting has been working tremendously well with our clients. So for those of you that have not yet done this, You even had Todd and Steven last week arguing over who should tell the story because it works so well, all right? But we want to call everybody and have the conversation about preparedness, all right? If you're the person calling the client or the prospect, hey, I know we're not working yet together, or you have this project that might be on hold, or I know we've got this project we've got a contract for, but you said it might not be happening. I have been tasked with checking in on all of our clients' projects, okay? So we could be prepared for the demand spike. All right, remember guys, when the world starts going back to work, there is going to be, everybody is going to want everything at the same time. So whatever business you think you're in, you're not in that business right now. You know what business you're in? You're in the toilet paper business. What happened? And you don't like that one? You're in the hand sanitizer business. Oh, you don't like that one. You're in the disinfectant handy wipe business. Okay? What happened when the coronavirus hit and we were all subject to in-home sheltering? What happened? Right. Everybody went and stocked up on toilet paper. Everybody at the same time. Okay? And what happens now? You can't get it. That's going to be you 3 to 6 months from now if you're not aware of what your clients are thinking. Okay? And, we've all been there. You walk into a bagel shop in the morning. You go to lunch at a deli. What goes through your mind when you go to the deli at lunchtime and you ask for a sandwich and they say, oh, we're out of bread. How could you be out of bread? You're a deli. Everybody knows this is the busy hour of the day. How can you not have enough? Right? So, last week we had the discussion around, I said, you want to have a preparedness plan. Here is our scripting. Now, remember before when we said you're going to do your forecasting and you're going to look out 12 months? We want to train your sales team. Your sales team needs to walk the prospect or the client through the next 12 months, month by month, because they're going to be freaked out a little bit too. Oh my God, all of my network is dried up. Nobody's buying. Everybody's shut down. By the way, this is my pet peeve for the week. By the way, nobody is shut down. Nobody. I don't care who you are, where you are. Nobody is shut down. Right now, have you been prevented or legally been mandated not to accept patrons in your facility right now? Yeah, maybe. Right? You know how many conversations I have had with business owners over the last week and today, and they're in their office, in their building today? More than want to admit it. Okay? Everybody's open. Right? Their facility managers there, their general managers there, the owners going in. They might not be accepting patrons or patients or customers right now because they can't because of social distancing, but they're all open and operating. All right? So nobody is shut down. Everyone has restrictions. Like, yeah, I'm home too. I've got restrictions, but I'm still working. And so is everyone else. That's the whole point. So to get your clients and prospects to be thinking logically, ask them the question, walk me through the next 12 months, remember, as if we're back to work in May. Well, I don't know if we're back to work in May. I understand you don't know for sure, but if we were, what projects have you been talking to your clients about, or what services or products or materials or supply chain are they likely going to need from you, or are you going to need from me in the month of May? And they'll say, oh, well, all right. It's probably, I'm going to lose 80%. Great, so tell me about the 20%. They'll tell you about the 20%. Okay, walk me through June. Well, God, that's a 50-50. Great, walk me through the 50%. Walk me through July. I can't stress this enough. Don't allow somebody to just say, oh my God, the whole world is coming apart, because that's somebody who's in the weeds and has lost track of the big picture. So we want to have them walk you through the big picture step by step. Take me through the next 12 months, month by month. And even so, if they're verbally doing it, you capture the numbers. All right, May, 4 projects, 50,000. Okay. June, 7 projects, 125,000. Okay. July, what does that look like? July is a slow month anyway, right? Okay. 2 projects, 20,000. Okay. August. Walk me through August. Don't go to September until you've done talking August. All right? Have your sales team be disciplined. Listen to their calls. Make sure they're asking them, walk me through month by month. Okay? All right? Then when you're done with that, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Because we're building a priority list right now for our clients. So we can be ready for you when your product, service, material, supply chain needs spike. Don't say when you need us a little bit again. It's going to spike. You know, be prepared for that. Okay? One of our medical practitioners was claiming they think they're going to be slower. I have not heard that from anybody else, any other medical practitioner. By the time we were done talking, he felt differently. I said, really? All the people you normally have are just going to go away. They're going to choose not to get that procedure. Oh, no, well, they'll likely get it. All right, well, they'll likely get it from whom? Do you think they'll still go to you? Yeah, likely. Oh. So then, in other words, you're going to be busy again. Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought of it that way. Okay? Because they're thinking about all the other things that are out of their control. And then number 3 is when you're having this call, so use this language. We're building a priority list right now so we can be ready for you when your products and supply chain needs spike. I'm going to be your advocate. I'm getting you on that priority list. Now, what might happen, and this will just be part of conversation, so I'm not so sure there's a script around this, but I'll give you some language and talking points. So what they're going to say is, at some point, they're going to tell you about a project in May, June, July, August, right? And your follow-up to them is, what is your time frame on that? Meaning, once you need it, how quickly are you going to need it? And if anyone quotes you a turnaround time that seems tight, you may want to recommend to them that they pre-order that part of the order. Okay? We may want to do that for them. Make sure you've got it. So you can say, look, I'll even house it for you for now. But of that part of your project, if you're going to need that raw material, or you're going to need to have that tank on site, or you're going to need to have these materials, all right, or you're going to need to know that you have access to a certain service or a platform, or, you know, a spot in line, you may want to pre-book that now. Make sure that you've got that so you, again, when the world's back to work, everyone's going to need everything at the same time. Think toilet paper for a moment, all right? You don't want to be the person who can't get your hands on toilet paper. And you don't want to go back to your customers saying, oh, so sorry, we're out of inventory. So help them, because they might not be thinking straight. Help them with their pre-orders, okay? All right. So now, I started the conversation by educate in April, all right? Now, let's talk about this. I had some of these talking points, again, very briefly. I want to dive deeper into it today, all right? Offer your clientele. It doesn't matter how many people come. If there's 2, there's 2. If there's 50, there's 50. If there's 1,000, there's 1,000. It's not the number, all right? If you're thinking, well, how does this get me more leads? Does this improve my SEO? Does this? That's not the point. The point is you want to be seen and visible as being the kind of person who is thinking about your clientele and your prospects and helping them during this time. Even if you just have an open Q&A session and you ask them, and you just say, hey, what's going on for you right now? All right? But I would suggest you hold a town hall. It could be like this. It could be a Facebook Live. It could be a chat group. It can be a Skype meeting. It could be just be a conference call line. All right? And hold a town hall. Invite your prospects and clients and their staff. Right? Now, I would recommend you offering them 2, 3, and 4 on the town halls, right? Or at least if you're not going to do that, then at least give them updates or what you've learned about the SBA loan, or what you've heard if your business is geographically based, what's some of the town news. If you sit on the board of something, relay what you're hearing, that sort of thing. Or it might just be sharing best practices and experiences from clients, okay? Now, number 2, all of your customers are working remotely, okay? Educate them on how they can work remotely. Share your experience, what you're doing, and what are some of the best practices that seem to be working for you, and what are some of the things that are not working for you, all right? So, for example, some working tips are, having a daily huddle with your teams, doing video as much as possible, okay? Utilizing fully your remote platforms. So if you have Slack or Microsoft Teams, make sure you're running your meetings through those portals. Meaning you're sharing your screen, and you're posting, your updates, and you're letting other people present, and you're switching organizers. Because I promise you, when you go back to work, if there's a scare, you're gonna have to go remote pretty quickly. I told my daughter, I said, you know what the worst thing for you that's gonna come out of this whole process of homeschooling is, for those of you that live in the north, or you live anywhere where there's snow, or you live anywhere where weather can abruptly interrupt your school schedule, there's going to be no more days off. I said, mark my words, honey, next year, if there's a snow day, they're just going to call it a remote day, and you're going to have school. She was like, oh, when we think it's snow, I can go to bed late, I can get up late, and I got a day off. I remember that as a kid. It was like, yes, it's supposed to snow tomorrow. Day off. I wouldn't even set the alarm. Right? But now, I said to her, I think those days are gone. Because by the time May of this year rolls around, virtually every school in the country is going to have figured out Google Classroom. And all their teachers are going to be on it. And days off from school are over, kid, over. Right? And that's what's going to happen with work. The new normal is going to be, are we on an in-office schedule, or are we on a remote schedule? That's coming, guys, and that's coming in a big way. So number 1, not only utilize remote as you're doing it now, but make sure that you're fully up to speed on the platforms and share that with your clients. Right? You would think everyone's already thinking about this. But it's really not. There's a lot of people that, for whatever the reason, maybe they're super busy right now, or maybe they don't have access to the same channels we do. But a lot of companies are underinformed. I wouldn't say uninformed, but underinformed. Or they're just getting their news from a news channel that doesn't get into specifics enough. So, some of these hacks that you have, some of these little behind the curtain secrets you have, these experience shares you have, they're useful to your clients. Share them. Okay. Now, I've had this conversation with a few of you, and you know who you are, but let's do demonstration videos. How are you working? How are you getting through? How can they be prepared? Right? So most, if not all of you, are utilizing a service. Sorry, you offer a service. Your clients are utilizing your service. Let's do some demonstration videos of how they can utilize you better Maybe there's some do-it-yourself things they can be doing now that can prepare them for how to use you later, okay? And let's get those videos, start pumping those videos out during this time. You can add it on to whatever campaign you're doing. They don't have to be incredibly, ultra high produced. They just have to be good content, meaningful and genuine and relevant content to your clients, and they will appreciate it, okay? Now, I mentioned this before, internally, okay? Remember I mentioned throughput. Remember I mentioned look at the process map. If nothing else, for this next month, remember this is our April plan, let's revisit our sales process map and our fulfillment process map. How do we deliver on a product, service, event, project? Let's get everybody on a Zoom, GoToMeeting, free conference, video chat, Skype, whatever, and let's start walking through it. Let's agree on every box on that sales process, training, not only for preparedness, but your company is going to be stress tested, your team is going to be stress tested more than they've ever been. You think this is stressful because of lack of work, you're going to have the opposite. You're going to be swamped. You need to be able to handle that time, okay? I've heard, and I've even put it in here. Well, Carl, I would do this if we had the time. We're here. We have the time now, okay? So training, but in these two specific areas. Now, training on all of your portals and technology. So we advise clients that do software integrations and implementations, right? You want to put a software, an ERP, you want to put SAP in your business, you want to put GPS asset tracking in your business, but you don't have time, right? So you hire a consulting firm to come in and help you integrate that into your business. All right, well, we advise companies like that. And you know what their biggest complaint is? That their clients don't finish the training and they don't know how to utilize the platform. Well, now's your time. Now's the time to do that. So if you have any lull where your clients aren't buying, but you are taking advantage of the SBA stimulus package and the loans, and you are keeping your client, you're keeping your team on, you will not have a training opportunity for another year that you have now. I don't care about whatever seasonality you have in your business, right? The new world order starts this spring and this summer. We are in a different world. So if you were slow before, you're going to be busy now. Right? For the next 6 months, we're all going to be busy. Well, I have a spring business and we do all of our events. Well, you're likely going to move them till later in the year and try to see what you can do for that, right? To see whatever business you can scoop up, right? You're all going to be going in that direction later this year. So prepare and for this spike, and you have the time now. So let's make it a priority to revisit those maps and make sure everybody is on the same page. Okay? So it's when you are out there. If I were to go meet your sales team out in the field or your marketing team out in the field, and we have these conversations, if I were to ask them, well, what is it you do? I'm getting different answers. Right? I see one of you at one networking event. I see another one of you at another networking event, and you're from the same company. I hear two different answers, right? Shouldn't be two different answers. Should be one best way, one agreed upon best way to talk about the business, to market and sell the business, and there should be one agreed upon best way to fulfill that order. All right, now is the time to make sure to be on the same page, or at least revisit and make sure we're back on the same page. Okay? All right? And so we talked about that last week. These are some of the discussion points you're going to have. I'm going to come off the slides for a moment. All right, see if we have any questions and comments. All right. All right. I'm going to take you all off of mute. Any comments, questions, thoughts before we go? Before we wrap things up? I had gotten a couple of questions beforehand, but and I think I may have addressed them. But I'm happy to take any other questions that you guys might have.
Carl, it's Anna.
Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
So what I've started to do is, because people are stuck in their apartments and we do apartments, I've started to do workout videos and show people how to use stuff in their apartments to do a workout. And
so you've been doing that as a service?
Well, it's an education thing. You're stuck in your apartment. The gyms are all closed. Here's what you can do. Here's a workout that you can do to stay active during this time. Because the apartment's not.
Did you, Anna, just so I can repeat it for those that may not have heard it. So Anna does temporary corporate housing, and she has people who are sheltered in place. Temporary became a little bit more longer term than maybe even they wanted to do. So here's what she's doing. She's providing workout videos, and she's providing some things that people can do to stay active while in their homes. Okay, so that's an example of a best practice. So that's a good one, Anna. And we'll go one more here before we wrap things. I just unmuted you. So anybody have a question, comment, best practice that you want to share before we wrap things up?
Yeah, Carl, you had said 4 to 6 months that the government is going to allow you to
hang on 1 sec, Rick. Hang on, Rick. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, so
try it again, Rick.
When you were talking, you said that the government was allowing 4 to 6 months of they were going to cover your payroll for that long, and it encouraged you to keep your employees on as opposed to laying them off. But the CARES Act, as we're going through it, is 2.5 times your monthly payroll less people that make more than 100,000 plus FICA and some other things.
Yeah.
So I was wondering where you got the 4 to 6 months.
Sorry, I may have just misspoke or combined two parts of the presentation. So I'm saying the overall stimulus will carry you through the next 4 to 6 months. But you're right. The SBA loan is once you are approved, you could pick any 8-week window, and as long as you spend the money during that 8-week window, that part of the loan is converted into a grant, and it is forgivable. So you're right. So you could take 8 weeks of your payroll, and that part of the loan becomes forgivable. Whichever part you don't spend on payroll will just be a loan at 4% amortized. I believe they're talking about it being a 10-year loan at 4%. So whatever you don't use on payroll would be converted into a loan, but you would pick any 8-week period plus any owner's salary up to $100,000. You're right.
Right. It also includes health care, rent, utilities, and a couple of other minor
things.
But the health care was a big one, we thought.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think they've got this one right. I was on a call earlier today, and if any of you are going to apply for the EIDA, the Economic Disaster, EIDL, Economic Disaster Loan, you can do that right on the SBA.gov website. If you're going to go for the payroll protection, the PPP loan, the 7A with PPP loan, do that through your banker. Call your banker. They either will be an authorized SBA lender or they'll point you in the direction of one. And I believe get all your paperwork ready. I believe they're accepting applications as of Friday. And there is what did they say, $349 billion that's been allocated to this. And that sounds like an awful lot of money, but it's going to go fast. And and remember, as entrepreneurs, the businesses, they come for businesses last, right? This is your one shot, I believe, my prediction. This is the one shot we all have at the stimulus for entrepreneurs, for entrepreneurial businesses. And if your business is in crisis right now, this will be a lifeline and it will be helpful. If your business is healthy already, then guys, this is one of the biggest gifts you'll get from the government in the history of your company, because it is a low interest, no personal guarantee, partially forgivable loan, and if you're already healthy, they're going to pay you for 2 months of your payroll. So absolutely positively take advantage of this, okay? Absolutely positively take advantage of this. All right, let me make sure I've got everything else in the chat, okay? All right. Oh, gotcha, Rick. All right. Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. So we recently got a package from a banker on the SBA loan. I'll circulate that. We do have a colleague that is well versed in SBA loans. If you need assistance in trying to figure out how, if you need assistance in how to apply for the loan, you're just not sure how to do it, I could turn you on to somebody who can assist in that area if you'd like. As a favor to us, they'll do it for any one of our clients. So if you need that, shoot me an email and I'll make sure that you get that, okay? All right, so okay, cool. So, guys, we're at the top of the hour. Thanks for the comments. I hope you found this valuable. We're going to do this each week at 2 o'clock, and we're going to deep dive into more subjects. I'm sure with everybody applying this week, apply this week, everybody. Apply this week. We will be talking about that in depth next week, and I'm looking to line up some people that have expertise in the SBA process so they can help some troubleshoot. So get your paperwork, line up your, get your tax returns or at least your 2019 financials completed. If you can't get your tax returns done, get your financials from your accountant finalized and be ready for, be ready for the coming week. And we'll be back next week, 2 o'clock. Again, we're talking to you all already as it is. So if you have a question for me or for your advisor, reach out for them. But in the meantime, stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll be in touch over the coming week, okay?